When the big wheels keep on turning and carry me home to see my kin, I'll be singing songs about the Southland and looking for Alabama barbecue once again. And if you're exploring Sweet Home Alabama and that's on your agenda, you'll need a guide to find the best smoked meats in the heart of Dixie. And today we're talking to just such a guide. It's the Alabama Barbecue Chase and Ricky Harmon. Ricky, welcome to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show.
Thank you, Chiga. That's quite an introduction. Anytime it can be associated with Leonard Skinner, you're in pretty good company, I think.
Yeah, we'll see what else we can associate you with as the podcast moves along. First, I want to offer a quick reminder for the folks who want all the scoops on barbecue around the Carolinas and beyond. Just visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where you can sign up for our newsletter, The Lowdown. It delivers the latest Carolina barbecue news directly to your email inbox on Tuesday mornings. Of course, our website's also where you can find our barbecue blogs and our podcast episodes with barbecue reviews, pitmaster interviews, and discussions with smoked meat aficionados. That's today's guest, the founder of the Alabama Barbecue Chase. So, Ricky, just get us started at the beginning. Tell us, what is the Alabama Barbecue Chase and what's your mission?
Well, the Alabama Barbecue Chase is a website that reviews barbecue joints across the state of Alabama. And it's supported by a couple of social media channels. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and those channels cover all things barbecue, from visits to different joints to interviews with pitmasters to my own journey to trying to learn how to cook barbecue. So it's really just barbecue's fun, you know.
Yeah.
People get passionate about it, and so I love to share where I'm going and what I'm doing. And try to get other people interested in it as well.
Yeah, that's a great mission. Of course, you're on the web at the alabamabarbecuechase.com. You mentioned it on Instagram. That's where I follow you. There at the Alabama Barbecue Chase, on Facebook as well. A lot of great content you can see about barbecue around the state of Alabama. Tell us, Ricky, how and when did you get started on this little project?
Well, a few years ago, maybe several years now, I found an article that listed the 50 best barbecue joints in Alabama, and I'd already been to 17 or 18 of them.
Wow.
So I decided I was going to visit all 50. And along the way, a friend who I told about this said, you should really do a blog. And I just had this inspiration. Instead of a blog, I'm going to do a website and just write about what I was experiencing. Because I find it difficult to find good reviews of restaurants online. So many of them are just like, oh, the wait was too long, or I had a hard time parking, or they didn't fill my drink back up, or something like that. And it's not really about the food and what it's like and what the experience was. So I wanted to offer that to people.
Yeah. And how has it gone so far since that launch? Again, on the website, you got a ton of content on there. How do you feel like the progress has been over these years?
It's been really fun. We're up to 75 joints that are reviewed and posted on the website. I have a couple more that I'm working on. And just the reception, I've been noticed in a few places. I've had the chance to sit down and interview some, I guess, Alabama's bigger pitmaster celebrities. And everybody's excited when they hear about it. And it's kind of shown. We get a warm welcome and we have a lot of fun wherever we go.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you decide which barbecue restaurants you're going to visit and review?
A lot of that's decided just by proximity, what's easy to get to. We live in central Alabama, so we started there, but I have offices with my real job in Huntsville and places east and west down to Montgomery. So the top 2/3 of the state, really. So I started with those when I'm traveling for business. But also if my wife and I take a trip, and she knows this, so I'm not going to get in trouble for it. We'll plan some of those a lot of times around where we can experience some new places, some new barbecue joints. So we just got back from a trip to the Gulf Coast and went to a couple new places and one of our old favorites. So some of that goes just by what's convenient or where we're going to be, but we get some nice recommendations from folks also. They've got some good suggestions. There are lots of hidden gems out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those pit masters. I know I've seen you with Bob Sykes. I've seen you with the pit master at Big Bob Gibson's, and of course, Golden Rules all over the place. One of my growing up favorites.
Yeah.
What's it like to interview those folks, and what do you try to take away from each one of those encounters?
Oh, those are so fun. There's kind of the Mount Rushmore of barbecue in Alabama is Big Daddy Bishop from Dreamland, Big Bob Gibson, who was the inventor of white sauce, Alabama white sauce as it's known. But now Chris Lilly is the pit master at Big Bob Gibson's, and he's probably our biggest celebrity. He's been all over the world, and even back in December was on Monday Night Football cooking for the broadcast crew.
Wow.
And then Van Sykes would be the other one on that mountain, who's at Bob Sykes near Bessemer. And I reached out to both of them, just didn't know what the response would be. And they both said, "Hey, this sounds like fun. Come on up." And Chris Lilly gave me 45 minutes and Van talked for like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And, just we're so excited to talk about something that they're so passionate about. And it's kind of in their DNA. They grew up around it, or at least Van grew up around it, worked in the restaurant growing up. They just love to share their passion for it. And what they've learned and the extent of their knowledge is just immense. I mean, you've heard some of the interviews with Van Sykes, who talks about you can hear how the barbecue's cooking.
Yeah.
You don't even have to stand there and watch it. You can hear it and know if wood needs to be added to the fire, or it needs to be turned, or if something else needs to be done. It's really kind of fascinating that somebody can have that much knowledge. It's always cool to talk to people like that.
Yeah. And when folks have passion, it's easy to have some good conversations and draw some good stories out of them. So what do you feel like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along this barbecue chase has been?
So I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to keep an open mind. They say you don't talk about religion or politics. In Alabama, you've really got to be careful talking about college football. But I found the same thing with barbecue. People are really passionate. If they like barbecue, they love it, and they have their favorite joint. And if you don't like it, they can really get fired up about it.
Yeah.
And I will confess that I was, I guess, the same way when I first got into barbecue. It's been a few decades ago, where I had my favorite place and everything else was terrible. And I really didn't give them much of a chance. But as I've gone about with this attitude of, let me write about the experience so people will know what's going to happen. And it's not about this was good or this was bad or this is an 8 out of 10. It's just about my experience. I really have learned there's so much good stuff out there. And if you go into every experience with an open mind, you'll discover so many things you didn't know existed and so many things that you love. It's fun. So that's the thing I've learned the most, is just keep an open mind, because there's so much good creative stuff out there.
Yeah, keeping an open mind. That's great advice. And of course, you're in Alabama doing your Alabama barbecue chase. I'm in North Carolina. We got some friends at Barbecue Bros and other guys who are doing a little bit of a similar thing. But if I'm in another one of these states, say South Carolina or Georgia or Tennessee, Arkansas, what kind of advice would you offer somebody who was looking to launch their own barbecue chase?
I think you just have to really be passionate about it. You really have to want to do it, and you just have to get out there. I will admit, when I started, I didn't have that much knowledge, really. I knew I loved barbecue. I loved eating it. I loved everything that went along with it, just kind of the ambiance and the history. But I just had to get out there and start trying different places and talk to people, ask if the pit master's there, ask if the owner's there, and just strike up a conversation with them. Tell people what you're doing. For me, that was a little tough. I'm not a type A outgoing personality, I would say. And I'm certainly have never been a really big self-promoter, which I felt like I was needing to do. But as I learned to just introduce myself and tell people what I was doing, conversations naturally struck up. They were interested and they made it easy on me. So, just be willing to try anything and just be willing to talk to people. There's so much
Yeah.
knowledge out there.
And once you break the ice, which can be the hardest part sometimes, it really just starts flooding out there. So you mentioned, the barbecue that you grew up on, and you were very defensive about it in the early days. Tell me about when you first got interested in eating the barbecue, and what was that barbecue you grew up on?
So I really didn't become a passionate follower of barbecue until I was in my mid 20s, I guess. There was a little joint in the town I grew up in Columbiana, and we ate there occasionally. Beverly's was the name of it, just classic Alabama, pit smoked, pit cooked. But when I began my professional career, I had a mentor and a friend, Greg McNair, who was a big barbecue guy. He'd eaten all over the state. And we were traveling from Tuscaloosa to Montgomery, which is a 2-lane highway. Most of it runs through the middle of nowhere. And halfway there's a little town that probably doesn't have 500 people in it, called Billingsley. And on that highway was Jim's Barbecue. And it was just a little building. I think he started out selling fruit out of it and then decided he would try selling barbecue. And they had they called it the Big Jim sandwich. It was a half-pound pulled pork sandwich. They would cook it on the smoker or on the pit, and then they would wrap it for the last couple of hours. And then it just falls apart. And the first time I had that, I thought, I didn't know anything could be so good. And so that was the place that I originally measured everything else against.
Okay.
And if it wasn't just like that, then it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Golden Rule, they pit cook theirs over live coals, hot coals. They burn the wood, they cook it right over the top of it, and it can create a nice bark or crispy outside. And originally I thought, that's just burnt. Like, that's terrible. I don't like that.
No, that's the flavor.
It is the flavor.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've learned that. I'm like, there's different styles, there's different techniques, but really it's all good. It's just different. There's nothing wrong with being different. And now I love Golden Rule. I love Carlisle's in Birmingham. There's all these places, Bob Sykes, that have been around forever that cook it that way. But there's also lots of, kind of this newer generation that is experimenting and trying different things, and it's all good. It's just different, man, which is great. If I've got a taste for one thing, I know where to go to get it. And if I want something else, I know where that is too. So
sure. And that Golden Rule with the bark is hard to beat.
Yeah.
Man, I great memories of that. And their sauce is something special for sure. Let's step aside just a second. When you're not chasing barbecue, what is it that you do in your real life? And I have a little bit of an idea, but help me understand maybe how that's helped you prepare to launch and continue the Alabama barbecue chase.
So my real career is in video production. So I started out working in documentaries, shooting videos for Alabama Public Television. Got out of that when I realized I could never raise a family on it. Began doing commercial video work and still got to travel a good bit. But when I was doing documentaries, we would end up in all parts of Alabama, small towns, places that weren't even towns, seeing all these really unusual things that I never knew existed, especially in Alabama. And we would find ourselves in these little bit of areas, and you're always looking for the local dive to have lunch in. And a lot of times that was a little barbecue place. So I kind of gained this spirit of adventure, I guess. My love for the state of Alabama increased, and I had some experience now in doing video production in the media world. And so it was kind of a natural transition, I guess. I was not a social media guy. I'm still learning social media and how to. I've also learned that when doing social media, I can't lean on my professional background because it's very different. But those are the things that I guess gave me the encouragement or the confidence to kind of jump into this and see where it went.
Yeah, and on your website, the Alabama Barbecue Chase, there's a section about barbecue ain't free, and I like some of the stuff that some of the videos you've got up there. Again, I'm from Birmingham, and the King's Home was a place that we supported as I grew up all along. So it's great to see some of the folks that you're supporting there. Let me ask you about the barbecue for yourself. When did you start smoking the meat low and slow?
Oh, I've had a grill for a long time, burgers and chicken and just
Not the same, not the same.
not the same. No, it's not the same thing. But I decided, if I'm going to claim to be the source for all things barbecue, I needed to learn how to cook real barbecue. And so it was only the end of last year, I bought a used electric smoker as a place to start. My interview with Chris Lilly at Big Bob Gibson, he said, get the process down, get it to where you can cook the meat the way you like it, and then play with your flavor profiles. So I thought electric smoker is the easiest way to get started. So I did that, and I'm looking to get a cooker or a pit or something that has that I can cook with charcoal or wood. I can smoke, or I can cook it over the direct heat. That's the next step, because I'm feeling good about where I am there, and try to post some videos so other people can see the process. Getting good at that it's not easy. It's not there's a real art and science to it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And the videos that you put out there look great. And again, obviously your professional career has an additive to that, I'm sure. How much time would you estimate that you spend working on just the barbecue videos each week? Because you got them coming out regularly.
Boy, I don't know. It's some of my cooking videos. I try to get one of those a week. What I usually do is, like, my wife's birthday was a couple weekends ago, and all the kids were home, and so I did 3 that weekend as we made lunches for her and cooked for everybody else. So I'll try to do a bunch at once, and then maybe release 1 a week. But when we go out to eat at a restaurant, I can usually get a couple or a few done there, take lots of pictures for the website, interviews like I did with Van Sykes. When you've got 2.5 hours of him talking and telling stories, there's lots of little segments you can come up with. I don't know how long I spend. It's one of those things that's it's become a hobby, I guess, maybe a little more than a hobby. I would love to see it grow into something that I could do for a very long time. So it's something that's just always on my mind. It's on my wife's mind. It's on my kids' minds. They're always sending things or sharing what I've posted. So it's really become a part of our family, and everybody enjoys it and has fun. And it just kind of flows into what we do every day.
Yeah, so you always got something cooking one way or another. Speaking of cooking, let's get back to the barbecue and the Alabama barbecue specifically. I'm familiar, but maybe your audience isn't. How do you feel like Alabama barbecue is different from what you might find other places like Texas or Georgia or even the Carolinas?
Well, if you talk to the old guard in Alabama, right, the term low and slow, of course, like you talk about in the name of your show, is what most people are familiar with. Some of the older guard, you'll hear them talk hot and fast. So you'll cook it over live coals, directly over live coals. and you'll keep turning it, and you have to work it, and you have to pay attention to it. And it's all about airflow, managing the airflow, which manages the heat. And so in doing that, it creates, like we mentioned with golden rule, this, you can get this beautiful crust or bark on the outside of the meat that's going to pick up all the flavor of the smoke from whatever type of wood you're using. And so that's what really makes it unique. A lot of times low and slow is smoking with indirect heat.
Mm-hmm.
You're drawing the smoke from like a firebox or something through the smoker and out the chimney. And so it's a long process. It's a very delicate process. And so that's, if I had to give a definition for Alabama style, that would be it. The meat still comes out tender. It's very flavorful. It's very smoky. That's how I would define it. But places all over Alabama are doing it so many different ways. As I mentioned, Jim's, where they wrap it at the end. That actually steams the meat for the last couple hours until it just practically falls apart. You can grab that shoulder blade and give it a pull, and it just comes out nice and clean. Like Texas is known for, even the Carolinas. And shout out to the Carolinas, right? Rodney Scott has multiple locations in the Birmingham area, which is whole hog barbecue. And that's a whole different thing, but still delicious.
Yeah, I've been to his Homewood location. Very good there. I know he's opened out in Trustful and that part of the Birmingham metro. So I haven't made it there, but love his stuff. And speaking of his stuff, that kind of leads me into the sauce of Alabama barbecue. I know he's got the white sauce on his Alabama smoked wings. Now, honestly, growing up there, I didn't have white sauce ever. Again, Golden Rule or Gus's Barbecue was my little barbecue joint, or any of these other guys have a different sauce than the white. That's kind of a North Alabama thing. How does sauce play into the Alabama barbecue equation?
So traditionally in Alabama, I would say that red sweet sauce is the sauce of Alabama. You could find that everywhere. Every restaurant has a red sauce. Big Bob Gibson, with his invention of white sauce, it did used to be just a North Alabama thing. North Alabama, you'd find white sauce. The middle, it was all red, and the South was often mustard based. Now with what Chris Lilly and Big Bob Gibson's is doing, bringing more attention to Alabama barbecue and to their white sauce, now you pretty much have to have a variation of it. And most places do. And that's really the variety that you can find in the way people make their white sauce is really interesting. Big Bob Gibson's it's kind of thin, it's very vinegary, it's kind of peppery, but you can go to other places that make it using like a spicy brown mustard, and it's thicker and it's richer. It's more, has more consistency of a ranch dressing, but it's got a little bit of spice. I love trying those different varieties, trying the different sweet sauces. Every once in a while, you'll find somebody with a really good mustard base. I personally love restaurants that have just put 3 or 4 bottles of whatever they have on the table. You can try them all. You can mix them together. I think that's really fun. But to me, ultimately, barbecue, and this is my opinion, not everybody believes in this, really good barbecue doesn't need sauce. Like, really, you should just, and I've got several places I go where I don't even bother with the sauce. You just eat it the way it is, because the flavor is so good. It's so smoky and salty, and it stays moist. It's really impressive. So sauce is important. Some people think that's what barbecue is. Some don't, but there's nothing like a good barbecue sauce. You got
Yeah, and I know that some of them have a little bit of a spicy kick. Definitely Dreamland will spice it up a little bit. Some of those folks down in the lower Alabama, Hooks is one that's pretty spicy. Let's talk about those reviews and the experience. And I know that, you know, in your analysis, it's not ever really a negative thing. It's just kind of providing everybody an understanding of what they can expect. So, you know, what do you feel like makes for a good barbecue experience at a restaurant?
Oh, you know, that's a wonderful question. You know, of course, everybody wants the barbecue to be good. Um, and the other thing I love about because people are so passionate about barbecue, uh, the joints that have the people that are happy to be there, you know, the ones that are happy to serve you. You know,
Yeah.
this is what their family does, or this was their passion, or was their dad's place, or whatever it was. I love places like that where the employees just chat you up and they want to become friends with you. That's so much of what the South is about, is just good, friendly, down to earth, honest people. And you find a lot of those running barbecue establishments. I love I love places that have the local decor, so you kind of get a sense of what the area is about. Um, I love sauce on the table. If there's a television that has some sports playing on it, even if the volume's down, I give bonus points for that.
Okay.
Self-serve fountain drinks are great, especially if they're Coca-Cola products. I started out with a lot of the reviews I just called them bonus points for some of those things that I really like. Those are some of them. I like ordering at the counter and then going and getting your seat, and, you know, not having to deal with servers or anything like that. Nothing against servers, but you know, it's just my preference. Those are some of the things that I look for and really enjoy. But, you know, it always comes down to what's the food like.
Yeah, what's the food like? Is it good?
Like?
And your kind of description there sounds a lot like Rusty's Barbecue out in the Leeds area. So that's a new favorite of mine when I'm in town. Let me ask you, beyond that, what are some of your must-visit barbecue spots around the state?
Oh, you mentioned Rusty's is one of my top three. I really there is a place in Gulf Shores called Hog Wild Barbecue, which is strange. That you're down at the Gulf, and that's where the best barbecue is, instead of going down there for seafood. But they're really amazing. There's a place in Huntsville called Carr's Char. They have a lot of creative sandwiches. They've got a brisket Reuben. I just love their creativity with food. You know, downtown Birmingham has Carlisle's. It's been around forever. Went to a place in Foley that has a jalapeno cornbread barbecue sandwich. So instead of a bun, make these cornbread pancakes with slices of jalapeno in it. Amazing. It's a little place called Coach Brown's in Mobile. It's an old gas station. Used to be a gas station. And you pull up and he's got all these smokers out back going, and there's just a few tables that are under the old overhang for the gas pumps. Just amazing. And a little place called Herds, I think in Maplesville, is one of the best ones. It's a little food truck, but the guy can cook anything.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of taken us on a tour of the state, the north, the central, the south. What Alabama city is the best for barbecue, do you think?
I've been asked that question a few times. Decatur is, I think, right up there near the top. You know, Decatur is home for Big Bob Gibson's, but there's also a place called BB Perrin's. There's Smoky Seas, which to me has maybe the best ribs in the state. They've got a lot good going on there. But there's so many There's so many cities. Huntsville, as much as it's growing, there's tons of places I love to go to. Birmingham is some of the oldest restaurants in the state that just keep turning out great food. Yeah, and then the drive down to Mobile. Mobile has a lot of favorites. Some that have been featured on, was it Guy Fieri?
Yeah.
Has been down to Meat Boss. So I've kind of settled on Decatur, I think, but it's hard, man.
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa has Archibald and Dreamland.
Yep.
Most places in Alabama, when you talk to folks, it's like, who are you for? Are you for Alabama or Auburn?
Right.
When you're in Tuscaloosa, it's who's better, Dreamland or Archibald's?
Yeah. Those are fighting words for sure.
They are. And Archibald's is opening a storefront in downtown Birmingham.
Yep, I saw that. Okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of great information and insight on the Alabama barbecue chase. As we kind of come to the end of our time, Ricky, I just want to ask you, what keeps your fire burning? You spend a lot of time traveling. You spend a lot of time creating all this great content and reviewing it. Why do you do it? What keeps that fire burning for you?
I love the food, and I love the people I meet. The people I meet are just terrific. I love that you can go someplace and the person at the window's never met you before, but your sweetheart and your honey, and they're smiling at you.
Yeah.
And the creativity of the food, the enthusiasm that other people have for it. I've got a buddy who goes with me to a lot of places, and he loves it and looks forward to it. And there's just an energy around it that's exciting, and it's it's fulfilling to do something that you love.
And that, my friends, is the final word from the founder of the Alabama Barbecue Chase, Ricky Harmon. Ricky, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is really fun. I'll talk about barbecue anytime.
You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast stream. Share our podcast with your barbecue-loving friends. And be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find the Alabama Barbecue Chase on Instagram and Facebook. He's live on the web at thealabamabarbecuechase.com as well. While you're at their site, you can see the reviews and some of the videos there on their Instagram. On our site, you can see all the photos and videos from our barbecue adventures and interviews. Don't forget, when you visit lowslowbbqshow.com, you can sign up for our newsletter and get the latest barbecue news delivered to your inbox on Tuesday mornings. Thanks again to our guest today from the Alabama Barbecue Chase. Thanks as well to our whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. That's especially our master producer, Andrew Moose. He's also the founder of The Hum, Hickory's best outdoor concert venue. Get the lineup for concert season at thehum.live, and then join us Saturdays through the summer and support live local music. Finally, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, keep it low and slow.